Hello all, I'm Gray, aka the TF2 Weapon Ideas Dude, and today I'm here to talk about a rather controversial mechanic. Random crits, and crits in general, and also mini crits. Basically, before we get started into the balance between these, it's time to understand the mechanics. A critical hit can occur randomly or situationally if you have a crit buff, such as that from the Kritzkrieg's Ubercharge. You've gained crits in some way, such as the Man Melter, the Diamondback, or they just occur randomly, depending on an RNG situation. And the mechanics between random crits, they will increase in chance, depending on how much damage you have dealt. They cap out at 800 damage, when the critical hit chance is roughly 12.5%. For projectile weapons, that is. It starts at 2% for anything that's not melee. Melee weapons, on the other hand, start at 15%, and at maximum damage, they can go as high as 60% crit chance. And you have to remember this because it's important. So, people kind of complain about random crits a lot. There's a lot of random crits are fair and balanced binds, and that's sort of justified because it feels totally lame to get murdered by a critical rocket when you're about to kill a soldier that just respawned. It's an interesting form of balance, and the way it works is by making a very high point for the player that launched the crit, and a relatively low point for the player who received the crit, or the players, since critical rockets often massacre entire teams. And that's not ideal in balance. The other mechanic for critical hits is that they increase in chance, depending on how much damage you've dealt. So that interestingly makes some of the weakest classes the best melee hitters, because, say, a sniper is what I'm thinking about right now. A sniper who's dealt a couple headshots in the last few seconds is going to have the maximum critical chance on his melee, and therefore very likely to win any direct battle. And this mechanic, it's great in execution. It allows a streak to be sustained for a player, but it still has its low points. If you're about to murder that player that's on a massive streak and you get crit, then it still feels like total crap. And, well, the random crit is an interesting mechanic since it affects both ends of it very differently. And I feel like that should be changed so that the game experience is effective for everyone. I think a couple of mechanics should be changed, and I'll propose two different solutions for these. First of all, random crits should not be possible when you're below X percentage of health. That sounds fair, so you can't just be almost near death and be saved by a random crit or something like that. We've all been there, assassinating some class and then they fire a crit and you are blown to bits. It's kind of annoying. So that prevents a matchup from being flipped over pretty much by a sudden crit. And that is my base suggestion. That's in both of the following suggestions. The other one is to have the crit chance start at 0%. That personally makes sense to me because if that 2% chance activates on a soldier that just came out of respawn, he can get up that damage very quickly and sort of gain an unfair advantage based on that single random crit. And I don't really think that's fair. It really hurts to be crit by someone fresh out of the respawn room, or fresh into the server, or whatever. It just really does not feel good. And that's the first suggestion, coupled with the no crits at below X health thing. And then the second suggestion is to make melee weapons the only weapons that can crit. And this is a little more heavy-handed, but I feel like it might actually work. Melee weapons are the most common weapons to have the no random critical hits penalty because it is actually a penalty on them. I discussed this before in my Market Gardener video after Tough Break. And melee weapons, as you can see, their crit chance is noticeably higher, and they were sort of balanced around getting random crits at some point or another. And that makes random crits something you almost can balance for when you're dealing with melee weapons, rather than with primary or secondary weapons, which you can't balance random crits for. And that would allow melee to, one, still be a feasible solution in a pub or any other place that has crits enabled, and it would, two, keep you from being just destroyed in a situation that you couldn't help. Like, you can't help it when a critical rocket flies at you unless you're a pyro, but you can help someone charging at you with a melee. Of course, this solution too would have the no random crits below X health penalty, and I might actually be adding that to some weapons in the future, because I think it's a good idea. So, that was my thoughts on random crits. Thank you for watching. See you next time.